Hi, my name is Dr. Jessica Kriegel, and I am passionate about educating leaders on the power of culture to drive real results at your business.
Please welcome Dr. Jessica Kriegel.
I believe that the key to driving results in business is culture. He is working as in envisioning what might be next. We do our own research on what makes companies win. That's certainly the argument that they're using in order to justify the layoffs. We are in the pursuit of getting the Escalade making partner. We work to live, we live to work.
Clarity of results alone, this top of the pyramid, that is the number one most powerful thing that you can do to drive culture. So I'm going to provide you with some tools, with some models, and it is going to completely change the way that you think about culture so that you can really start to see the impact that it has on the bottom line. Imagine what will be possible if you start leveraging that simple framework in your teams to start driving results so that you can be one of those great leaders, the leader that gets results.
And I'm excited because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is how to get people to give a shit. Does that sound good? So my job as Chief Strategy Officer at Culture Partners is I coach CEOs and I work with leaders around how they can create movement in their employees in order to drive results, because that's what every leader wants, right? And whether you're the CEO of a company or you're a philanthropist or you're an investor or you're a social activist or whatever it is, or you're just a mom that is trying to get your child to do something that you want them to do, your goal at some level is to create movement, get people to do something, right? So I think I have something that can help. Can I share it with you today? Does that sound good? Okay. No, the guy in the front has to shout out no. Okay. So let me start by telling you a story about me. When I was 18, I joined a cult. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it wasn't one of those like flowing robes and shaven head cults, okay? I didn't like drink the Kool-Aid. It was a cult that took place in like this kind of a room. We were in a hotel room. It was business casual cult, okay? And it was a charismatic leader, a man, who stood up at the front of the room and he was telling us all how we can create any reality that we want. It was all about manifesting. Any of you guys fans of manifesting? Love manifesting. And manifesting is all about you can create anything, right? And there was one line from this seminar, we'll call it, which I remember and I will never forget, which is, you are the writer, creator, director, producer, and star of your movie. And I was a theater major at the time in college, and I loved being the star. Obviously, I created a career as a keynote speaker, so I was all in. I'm like, okay, let me do this. Let me write my movie. And so my movie, at the time, he's like, you got to create a goal, and then you just focus on that goal, and you journal about the goal, and you think about the goal, and then you're going to get the goal. I said, okay, my goal is $10,000. I want $10,000 in the bank. Long story short, 3 months later, I had $14,000. I was like, it works. What do I want next? So I was like, okay, next. I was graduating college, and people were asking me, what are you going to do when you graduate? I had no plan because I was a theater major and not a lot of job prospects. And so then I said, okay, as a joke, I said, well, I'm going to marry an Italian and move to Milan, obviously, right? Just kidding. Well, 3 months later, I met an Italian and I had my bags on his stoop in Milan a couple months after that. So then I started to realize, like, wow, there's also subconscious manifesting, like where you put your thoughts is what reality creates. Okay, what do I want now? Well, now I want a wildly successful career with credibility and gravitas and people paying attention to me. And 6 months later, I'm sorry, not 6 months, 6 years later, I had written a book and I was keynoting. Somehow I got invited to a stage and there was a bunch of really important people in the room and they invited me to keynote because I was kind of good. And then my keynote career took off and here we are. And I'm like manifesting on fleek, okay? I'm like manifesting expert. And then people started to notice. So then I got poached by a big technology company and they were like, ooh, you come over here and you can work for us. And then I was like frontline level employee, but then I met one of the executives and they were impressed and I got like a promotion that made me jump 7 levels. And suddenly this was Oracle, I was reporting into a guy that reported into Mark Hurd. And I'm head of strategy for the head of cloud at Oracle Technology. And I'm like, no technology background, but I got this. Here we go, manifesting. And I'm trying to make it happen. And to move a company like Oracle, which was at the time, it's like a $35 billion company, into the cloud, it requires movement. It requires change management, getting a lot of people to do something different than they're currently doing it. And you know what I noticed about manifesting is that like not everyone got the memo about manifesting in the corporate world. I'm like, guys, we just got to do this. Sounds good? And they're like, sounds great. And then I check back in a week and nothing happened. And I'm now a leader and I'm trying to get them to do something, and it's very, very hard. Now, here's the secret about manifesting. It's not like spiritual voodoo, okay? You don't need to meditate to manifest. All you really need is to have an idea, do that thing, voila, you've manifested, right? Like that's all it took. At one point, I wanted to build a mobile app and I had never built a mobile app. So I Googled, how do you build a mobile app? And then there was a book called How to Build an App. I bought the book, I read the book, I did what the book said, and I had a mobile app a year later. It's like not that hard. So why is it so hard to get employees to do stuff when it seems pretty straightforward? And this is the challenge that a lot of leaders have these days, because taking accountability, finding people that will take accountability is hard. How many of you know someone in your life who maybe sometimes has trouble taking accountability? Raise your hand. Yeah, all of us, right? And how many of you consider yourself accountable people? Raise your hand. Oh, also all of us? That's interesting. So what I noticed is that all of you are accountable, but the other people that are not in this room are the non-accountable people. And that's like how it works. Everyone thinks that like, I got this, I got it, I'm accountable, but everyone else is the problem. And so what do? What do a lot of people do? This is a culture dynamic. It's not just a character defect of mine, which I acknowledge I have serious character defects, okay? But this is something that everyone struggles with, and in the corporate world at least, which is my world, as you get up the ladder, what happens is you start to get titles that are like manager, I manage you, right? Director, I direct you. And then like chief, oh, chief, I am the chief of all of us, okay? And then you get money, and then you get power. And so now you're getting your ego boosted more and more, and fear starts to creep in. Why does fear creep in? Not because you're worried about not growing more, but you're like worried about losing something that you've gotten, right? And actually, that's something we all have. We're all a little bit afraid of losing our jobs. I mean, you see these layoff headlines every week. I mean, let me not even get started on the news right now and how scary it is and what's happening and how are we going to deal with it. And leaders are terrified because, I mean, I was just working with a pharmaceutical company last week, and we had this leadership retreat in Orlando with all of the executives of a pharma company, and it was the day after Liberation Day. Do any of you feel liberated? I'm just wondering. No? Okay, so it was the day after Liberation Day, and the tariff announcement comes out, and this is a global pharmaceutical manufacturing company, and all the leaders are in Orlando to talk about what we're going to do. And the news says pharma's exempt, but the announcement, it wasn't put in the Federal Register yet. The announcement didn't say, is that human pharma or animal pharma? And they have animal pharma. And so they're like, we have no idea what's going on, guys. What are we going to talk about for this leadership retreat? And you know what they did? They said, it doesn't matter what's going to happen. Agility is the new stability. We just got to be able to pivot. We got to lead with love. We got to come from a good place, and we got to help our people get the right way. So there are some leaders out there that have a good heart, and I love those leaders. But here's the thing. When you tell someone who's a rich CEO or someone with a lot of power and a chief in their name, and you're like, you just got to come from your heart, they're like, I'm sorry. Have you seen my board? They don't give a shit about heart, okay? They care about quarterly earnings, they care about results, and I've got to do something. And so then we lean on our toolkit, which is manifesting. I just got to do more. And then we've got this lesson in our head that the more I do, the better results I'll get. I just got to do more, do more, do more. And then as a leader, you start saying, you got to do more, you got to do more, you got to do more. And we try and change the world by telling people to do more. Even in philanthropy. I mean, I was just talking to Anna. No, not Anna. You're not Anna. Where's Anna? I was talking to you guys too. But Anna, where is Anna? I was talking to Anna yesterday. Anyway, she's here. She's speaking shortly after me, and she's talking about DEI. DEI was implemented, I think it really took off shortly after George Floyd because a lot of leaders were scared. They were scared of getting in trouble. So they started mandating DEI programs. We're going to implement a program, and we're going to hire a DEI expert. And this program, like all other programs, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And as soon as DEI became unpopular in 2024, it got ripped out of a lot of organizations very quickly because it was a mandate. It was a program. And if you want things to actually shift, if you want to create that movement, you have to go deeper than a mandate. It has to be a belief. And what we are all stuck in right now, what a lot of leaders are stuck on, what's happening out there and out there and out there, is people are stuck in the action trap. They're just trying to do more. And we're getting burned out. And beyond getting burned out, there's a ceiling to control. There's a ceiling to just do more. There's only so much more we can do. And so as leaders, one of the greatest tools that you have is the ability to, this might sound counterintuitive, to surrender. You have to just let go of the stuff that is not yours. And what's the only thing that you can do as a leader is create experiences. You as a leader, you as an employee, you create experiences for people every day. And those experiences will set the conditions for success or not. You can't just force people to do more. That's the action trap. So how does this work? If you want to get out of the action trap, you have to get at the underlying thing that causes other people to take action. What takes you to take all action? What drives all of your actions in all of your life? Values. Another way to say it is your beliefs, what you believe, right? If I believe in it, I will do it. If I don't believe in it, I'm not going to do it, right? So you have to understand, what are the underlying beliefs of the people that you're trying to create movement with? And if you can tap into that, well, then you can start to create results beyond your wildest imagination. And how do you change beliefs? It's through the experiences you create. And there's a ton of different experiences you can create. I was working with Ocean Spray once, and there was this problem with the labor, the union and the management. They were all upset because they didn't understand the other one. And it was, union stuff can be challenging. And so we talked to them. We figured out what was going on. And the leader said, I'm going to create a really powerful experience. And one of the problems at this particular plant, this was in Kenosha, Wisconsin, so it's cold. In the morning, they would all show up to work, and they would park their car, and the plant workers would park in the plant worker lot, which is a half a mile down the way. And the management had their fancy dancy VIP spots right by the office, right? And that was something the management had never even thought about, but the plant workers noticed it every single morning as they walked to work in the cold at 6 a.m., before the managers even showed up. All those spots were empty. So the plant manager, when he realized this, he got a literal chainsaw, and he brought everyone outside to the parking lot. And he's like, I'm going to create an experience right now. And he chainsawed down all of the signs that said reserved for management in the parking lot. That was a powerful experience, right? And it created a new belief. The belief was, this guy's serious about changing the culture here. Right? And then suddenly their actions started to change. Let me give you another example. This was at Boston Medical Center. We were working with their emergency department leader. In a Boston Medical Center, and with a lot of healthcare, and I'm sure many of you have this experience, there's sometimes a tension between patient experience and data entry. Right? We want to create a great experience, but also there's a lot of kind of logistical admin stuff. And so at the Boston Medical Center, this emergency department director was saying, we're not gathering next of kin information often enough. And this was a result she wanted to change. They were only gathering that information 42% of the time. So she says, we got to change that. And we're like, great. So what is the approach she took to doing all this? Well, she tried simplifying the form and training people on the form and translating the form. And basically, after 6 months of an effort, she moved the needle 5%. They were filling out the form 47% of the time, which is like, okay, you made a difference, kind of, right? And we were like, what is the belief that people have about the form? She's like, the belief is that it's a waste of their time. They don't want to do the form. They're too busy trying to save lives, right? Now, these were not employees that didn't care. These are not employees who were on their phones, right? These are people who were managing gunshot wound victims coming into the hospital who were like, I don't have time to fill out paperwork. So she realized the most powerful experience she could create, there's going to be a theme today, was storytelling. Stories are some of the most powerful experiences that you have at your disposal. And so she identified 2 true stories. One was a woman who came into the hospital. She did not get her next of kin information collected, and ultimately she died. They later found out that if they had known something about her medical history, they might have been able to save her, right? Second story, same hospital, different time. Older gentleman comes in. They do gather his next of kin information. He goes unconscious. They call the daughter. The daughter tells them about a medication that he's on, and they save his life. She just told those 2 stories for 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks, they were collecting the next of kin information 97% of the time. It works. The power of storytelling. It feels so touchy-feely, I work at a company called Culture Partners. It feels like culture, touchy-feely. We're here to do trust falls. Everyone get up and start singing Kumbaya, Or it's like, no, the key to success is ping pong tables and Hawaiian shirt Fridays, That's not culture. Culture is, are you able to tap into the hearts and minds of the people that you're working with to create movement towards a result? And it's not by telling them what to do. And it's not by controlling them and trying to say, no, do it this way, do it that way, do it that way, right? And I saw this more than ever with my dad, who was a CEO for a very long time. And he had a graphic art design company, printing press company on Varick Street here in New York. And he built this business and it was doing well. And then the Macintosh was invented. And basically a bunch of college students started taking over all of his business. And the company just started to fail. And he was in the action trap. I mean, he was like, do more. I'm going to save this company. I'm going to save this company. And he was doing as much as he could, and he ended up burning out. And he surrendered, but he didn't necessarily surrender in this kind of aspirational way that I'm suggesting. He surrendered by giving it all away. He sold his house. He couldn't sell his company. The company was bankrupt, but he sold his house. He sold all of his furniture. He sold everything, and he bought a motorcycle with a sidecar, and he left he was basically homeless by choice, and he took off on the road, and he lived on that bike, and he went around the world. And the trip lasted, wait for it, 12 years. He went to every country. You can still to this day visit his website. It's up there, thetimelessride.com. And it was, watching him go live his dream was very profound for me. It also probably sparked my career of how do we make work not make people leave their family for 12 years, right? I mean, that is kind of extreme. And so what ended up happening was after 12 years, I got pregnant. And when I got pregnant, my dad quit his trip. He was like, I'm done traveling. I want to come back. I want to be a grandpa. I was so excited. And he moved to Sacramento where I lived. And he helped me because at this point, my career had blown up, right? So I'm doing keynotes every week. I'm flying to New York. I'm on CNN and I'm on Fox Business and I'm doing news commentating on, what's going on with tariffs. Here's what I think, blah, blah, blah. And I feel very important. I'm very excited about my career. And my dad is flying with me to these places and it's awesome. And we would talk, every day he became my best friend. And I remember at one point, he was when I was pregnant, he was trying to convince me, I got to name my daughter Violetta. He's like, name your daughter Violetta, right? He's still trying to control me. I'm like, Dad, we're not even Italian. I've never heard the name Violetta before. Why are you saying Violetta? And he makes up this name. I think he was just messing with me. Anyway, she ends up being born. Her name is Eleanor. She is wonderful. She is now 8 years old. She's the cutest little thing in the world. And 3 months after she's born, my dad died of a heart attack. Like that. He was there at lunch and then he was gone at dinner. And I lost my mind. I mean, it was like my best friend. I, started to drink a little bit more than I should. And then I started to drink way more than I should. And then I started really drinking like all the time and was totally losing it because I was in the action trap at work trying to make it work. And then my support system was gone. And then I was just trying to cope with it. And I was totally burned out and losing it, right? And a year later, my husband left me. We got divorced. Thanks for the 5 years too late panel. Okay? Thank you. And I feel like my life is falling apart. And I'm like, I got to do something. Right? So I get in the car and I'm going to go work out because working out will make me feel better. And I get in the car and the car won't start. So I get on my bike and the bike has a flat. So I get on my husband's bike, ex-husband's bike, and the bike seat is broken and I can't ride it. And I didn't believe in God. If I did believe in God, I would have thought, God is telling you not to go, right? But because I was a hardcore atheist, I was just frustrated with life. Like, this is so annoying. What's going on, right? And so I decide to go for a walk. And I go for a walk on this path that I had gone on with my dad every day when he came and visited me. And it's a path I had not gone on for over a year because it was too emotional. I was trying to avoid the pain, right? And I go on the walk and I'm calling my best friend and I'm like, oh, my husband left me and I feel like I'm just losing everything, spiraling out of control. And he says, what do you feel? And I said, I just miss my dad. And he says, what would your dad say? And I said, my dad wouldn't say anything. He would just do something to let me know that everything is going to be okay. And at that exact second, I look down at the ground and I see brand new graffiti that has never been there before that says Violetta. And I literally fell to my knees. And I said out loud, I will never question if there's a God again. And I didn't know what God I believed in because I'd never been to church. So then I signed up for divinity school because I had to learn about God because I'm still that person that has character defects, okay? And so now I'm trying to figure out, like, what I learned about God is that surrender is really the answer, right? Even when you're trying to drive business results, because no one likes being told what to do. So I'm going to try and tell the story. Right now I'm working on making a documentary about this. And my dad left me 7 hard drives of all the footage of his motorcycle trip around the world. I want to take that little 8-year-old Eleanor and bring her on my motorcycle and go visit the places he went. I'm going to take the advice from the previous panel and brag about myself for a little bit. If you want to be involved in helping me make this documentary, please come up to me on a break, okay? And hopefully I've given you something here today that is of value. I am so grateful to be here, everyone. Thank you so much. Do you ever feel like the people in your life just don't give a shit? Well, what if I could grant you the power right now to get anyone to care about the thing that you want them to care about, so much so that they will actually take accountability for doing something about it? What could be possible? You could get your daughter to be excited about cleaning her room. You could get your boyfriend to take ownership of walking the dog. And what about your employees? Could you actually get them to care about the results that you're trying to achieve so that they're passionate about their jobs and finding fulfillment in driving results? Well, let's get you that power. I'm a data scientist focused on workplace culture and recently did research with 50,000 frontline workers in America. We wanted to understand, how do you get people to care? Because let's face it, great workplace culture is not a result of how many ping pong tables you have. Great workplace culture is when you and your team actually give a shit. And what we found was when people start in a new job, they actually usually care a lot. And then a year later, they are half as likely to be engaged at work. What happens in that year to make them stop caring? Well, understanding that was the key to figuring out how to get people to care. And that key is something called the results pyramid. So there are 4 layers in the results pyramid, and the top layer is results, because that's what we're all trying to achieve. We want some kind of outcome, whether that is a clean room or a walked dog or the revenue goals at your company. And what creates results is actions, people doing stuff, the second layer of the pyramid. So someone has to pick up the laundry, someone has to go take the dog outside, someone has to call the client or manufacture the widget. And that is where most leaders stop. They know that results come from actions, so they focus on telling people to take action. And we call that the action trap, because it looks like this. Go clean your room. Go walk the dog. Go call the client. Did you call the client? How many clients did you call last week? Unfortunately, the action trap does not motivate people, and it certainly doesn't get anyone to care. It just gets the job done. In fact, that is the exact experience that people were having in that first year at work that's making them go from caring to not caring. They're getting bossed around, and it's demotivating. If you want to get people to care, you have to get at the next layer down in the results pyramid, which is the thing that drives our actions. What drives our actions is our beliefs. We all hold underlying beliefs about whether there's value in cleaning the room or walking the dog or doing the work. And if you want to get people to care, you have to change what they believe, not just what they do. And you can do that through experiences. The bottom layer of the results pyramid is experiences, because our beliefs all come from the experiences that we've had. So if you want to shape someone's belief to be different, you have to create a new experience for them. So, where do you start? There are 3 types of experiences that you can lean into to get people to hold new beliefs, and they are recognition, storytelling, and feedback. So when my boyfriend goes and walks the dog, he comes back from walking the dog, and I recognize him for the effort that he's put in. I thank him because it's a result we both want. Now, you may be wondering if this is possible at an organizational level at scale when you're trying to influence hundreds or thousands of people, and it's absolutely possible. We worked with the director of an emergency department at a major hospital, and she had a team of people who were only gathering next of kin information 42% of the time, and this was a problem. She tried everything to get these people to care. She tried simplifying the form, she tried translating the form, she did a bunch of training on the form, and after 4 months of that action, she looked at the numbers again. They went from 42% to 47%. I mean, she barely moved the needle because she was stuck in the action trap. The problem was that people didn't care about the form. The belief they held about the form was, this is paperwork. We don't have time for paperwork. You're trying to save lives. So what we needed in this situation was storytelling. A couple of key stories was all she needed to create a new experience to drive a new belief. And we helped her identify 2 true stories that happened in that hospital. One was a woman who came into the ER. She had been hit by a car. They did not gather her next of kin information. She fell unconscious, and ultimately she died. They later found out that she had a medical condition that if they had known about, they might have been able to save her. The second story, same hospital, different time, an older gentleman came in. They did gather his next of kin information. He fell unconscious. They called the daughter. The daughter informed them about some medication that he was on. They adjusted the protocol, and he survived. She told those 2 stories for 3 weeks, and check the numbers one last time. After 3 weeks, they went from 47% completion rate of that next of kin form to 92% of the time. What happened? People actually started caring about their form because their belief changed, which led to them taking new action. And that ultimately got everyone a new result. That is the power of creating intentional experiences through either feedback, storytelling, or recognition that will drive people to hold new beliefs, which will get them to actually care and take accountability for their actions so that you can get the result that you and them want to achieve. That is how you get people to give a shit. Thank you.